She fell in love with him, and he couldn't resist. Later, when they were about to get married, they discovered that both of them had the AS genotype and couldn't proceed with the wedding. Both families disapproved of their union, but these two lovers were not willing to back down. Determined to fight for their love, they made a bold decision. Now, let's find out what happened. Kindly subscribe to this channel for more of our latest stories. Kenneth and Joy had been in love for years. Their bond was unshakable, but their parents were strongly against their relationship. The reason? Both Kenneth and Joy carried the AS genotype, meaning their children had a high chance of inheriting sickle cell disease, SS. Their parents feared the potential suffering their future children might endure. Love alone is not enough to raise a child who will suffer, Kenneth's mother warned. You don't understand, Mama. We love each other, and love conquers all, Joy argued. Despite their family's concerns, they refused to break up. Against all warnings, they went ahead with their marriage, believing that their love was stronger than genetics. Their parents were heartbroken and disappointed, but even though they disapproved, they didn't abandon them completely. Instead, they watched from a distance, hoping their children would never have to face the pain they feared. Do you think Kenneth and Joy made the right decision? Share your opinion in the comments section. A year into their marriage, Joy became pregnant. Their families worried, but when their baby girl was born, something shocking happened. The doctors confirmed that she was AS, not SS. She was healthy. You see, Mama, God is on our side, Kenneth boasted. We told you, miracles happen, Joy added with pride. They believed fate was in their favor and that they would never have a child with sickle cell disease. But unknown to them, something unexpected was about to happen. 2 years later, Joy became pregnant again. This time she gave birth to a baby boy. At first, everything seemed fine, but when the baby was just 6 months old, he began to show signs of illness, crying uncontrollably, his hands and feet swelling and suffering from frequent fevers. Concerned, they took him to the hospital. After a series of tests, the doctor returned with a serious expression. Mr. and Mrs. Kenneth, I'm afraid your son has sickle cell disease. His genotype is SS. Joy's hands trembled. Kenneth felt his heart sink. No, that's not possible. We already had one healthy child, Kenneth protested. The doctor sighed. That's how genetics works. Each pregnancy carries a 25% chance of the child being SS, a 50% chance of being AS, and a 25% chance of being AA. This time, the odds were not in your favor. Joy burst into tears, guilt washing over her. As their son, Daniel, grew, so did his suffering. Almost every month, he experienced a sickle cell crisis, a painful episode where his sickled red blood cells blocked blood flow, causing severe pain in his chest, arms, and legs. His immune system was weak, and he frequently suffered from infections. Mama, my legs hurt. Daniel would cry, clutching his tiny limbs. They spent countless nights in the hospital, watching their son scream in pain. He needed frequent blood transfusions, painkillers, and specialized care. Kenneth and Joy were exhausted. They loved their son deeply, but the constant hospital visits, mounting medical bills, and overwhelming helplessness took a toll on them. One night, as Joy sat beside Daniel's hospital bed, staring at his frail body, she turned to Kenneth with a pained expression. Kenneth, I can't bear this anymore. Seeing our baby in pain every day. It's too much, she whispered, her voice breaking. Kenneth clenched his fists, trying to hold back his own tears. I know, Joy. I know. But what can we do? We have to be strong for him. I wish we could take his pain away, Joy sobbed, running her fingers through Daniel's hair as he slept. Kenneth remained silent, guilt gnawing at him. He could see the weight of their choices in Joy's eyes, and he knew she saw it in his too. But this wasn't the time for regret. Daniel needed them. Weeks later, Kenneth had spent almost everything he had trying to care for his sick son. The medical bills never seemed to stop, and each hospital visit drained him financially and emotionally. His wife, Joy, cried almost every night, unable to bear the pain of watching their little boy suffer. Kenneth, I can't do this anymore, Joy sobbed one evening, sitting beside their son's hospital bed. Every day, he screams in pain. Every week, we rush him to the hospital. He's just a child. He doesn't deserve this. Kenneth sighed heavily, rubbing his tired eyes. He had sold most of his properties, drained all his savings, and borrowed from friends just to keep up with the medical bills, but it was never enough. A week later, Kenneth sat alone in the living room, staring blankly at the wall. His mind was heavy with regret. He thought about how different life could have been if he had listened to his parents. He buried his face in his hands and whispered to himself, "What have I gotten myself into? If I had known, I would never have married an AS. I love Joy, but I never imagined we would suffer like this." The following day, Joy sat on the floor in the living room, playing with their son, Daniel. For once, he seemed happy, laughing as his mother tickled him. But then, suddenly, his laughter turned into a weak cough. His body tensed, his tiny hands clenched, and within seconds, he collapsed to the floor. "Daniel! Daniel, wake up!" Joy screamed, shaking him. He was unresponsive, his breathing was shallow, and his skin was unusually pale. Panic surged through her as she grabbed him and rushed out of the house. At the hospital, the doctors acted quickly, running tests and administering oxygen. After stabilizing him, one of the doctors approached Joy. "Mrs. Kenneth, we need to admit him immediately and start an urgent blood transfusion. But there's a problem. You still owe the hospital $200,000 from his last treatment. We can't proceed until the balance is cleared," the doctor said, his voice firm yet sympathetic. Joy's heart dropped. "Doctor, please, my son is dying. I promise we'll pay. Just save him," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand, ma'am, but it's hospital policy. We can't provide further treatment unless the outstanding balance is settled," the doctor explained. With trembling hands, Joy pulled out her phone and called Kenneth. The moment he picked up, she cried, "Kenneth, Daniel collapsed. He's in the hospital, but they won't treat him because we owe them money. What do? We don't have anything left." Kenneth felt like the air had been knocked out of his lungs. His worst fear had come true. His son's life was in danger, and he was completely helpless. He knew he didn't have a single naira left. Desperation took over, and he did something that would cost him everything he ever had. Without thinking twice, he rushed to the bank and took out a massive loan, 50 million. But in his haste, he made a reckless decision. He used their house as collateral without telling Joy. By the time he arrived at the hospital, he handed over the money and settled all their debts, ensuring Daniel received immediate care. But deep inside, Kenneth knew this was only a temporary solution. He had saved his son for now, but at what cost? 6 months later, the loan Kenneth had taken was completely gone. The endless hospital visits, blood transfusions, medications, and emergency treatments had drained every last naira. One evening, he sat in the living room, staring blankly at the floor. Joy sat beside him, her hands folded in her lap, worry etched all over her face. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen, sighed, and ignored it. Joy noticed. "Kenneth, that's the third time your phone has rung today. Who keeps calling you?" she asked softly. Kenneth shook his head. "It's nothing, Joy. Don't worry about it." But she wasn't convinced. "You've been avoiding calls for weeks now. Kenneth, please tell me the truth. What's going on?" He remained silent, his face filled with stress and regret. The following day, while Kenneth was out, 2 well-dressed men arrived at their home. Joy answered the door, confused by their presence. And that was when she uncovered the secret that had been hidden all this time. "Good afternoon, ma'am. We're from the bank. We came to speak with Mr. Kenneth regarding his outstanding loan," one of them said. Joy's heart skipped a beat. "Loan? What loan?" she asked, her voice shaky. The second man pulled out a file and adjusted his glasses. "Your husband took a loan of 50 million and used this house as collateral. He has not made any payments, and according to our agreement, if 50% of the loan is not paid within the next month, the bank will have no choice to claim the property." Joy felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. She gripped the doorframe for support. This can't be true. Kenneth never told me about any loan." The men exchanged looks. "Ma'am, I suggest you talk to your husband. Time is running out." As soon as they left, Joy sat on the couch, completely heartbroken. Tears streamed down her face as she tried to process everything. Their home, everything they had left, was now at risk. That night, Kenneth returned home, exhausted from another long day of searching for money. As soon as he stepped inside, Joy stood up, her eyes red and filled with hurt. "Kenneth," she said, her voice trembling, "tell me it's not true." He froze. "What are you talking about?" "The bank was here today," she said. "They told me everything. You took a 50 million loan and used our house as collateral without telling me." Kenneth ran a hand over his face and sighed. "Joy, I had no choice. Daniel was dying. What was I supposed to do? Let him die because we had no money." "You should have told me, Kenneth," she yelled, tears falling freely now. "We should have made the decision together. Now we have 1 month to pay, or we will lose our home. How are we going to survive?" Kenneth looked away, unable to meet her gaze. He had no answer. The following week, Daniel's condition worsened. This time it was the worst crisis they had ever seen. His temperature was dangerously high, his breathing was shallow, and his lips had turned pale. Joy rushed to place a wet cloth on his forehead. "Kenneth, he's burning up. We need to take him to the hospital." Kenneth swallowed hard. "Joy, we don't have any money left." Then, after weeks of hardship, a miracle happened. Their son, Daniel, who had been sick for as long as they could remember, suddenly started improving. His skin looked healthier, his energy returned, and for the first time in months, there was no sign of pain or fever. "Mama, I feel strong today," Daniel said one morning, smiling up at Joy. Joy's eyes filled with happy tears. "Oh, my baby! Thank you, Jesus." She hugged him tightly, unable to contain her joy. Kenneth, too, felt hope for the first time in a long while. "Maybe things are finally changing for us," he told Joy. For days, their home was filled with laughter instead of pain. Daniel ran around, played with his toys, and even ate properly. But then, tragedy struck. One morning, Joy was in the kitchen preparing breakfast while Kenneth sat outside, thinking about ways to earn more money. Suddenly, they heard a violent cough from inside. "Mama!" Daniel's voice was weak. Joy rushed into the room and froze in horror. Daniel was coughing, hard. But this time it wasn't a normal cough. Blood was coming out of his mouth, staining his clothes. "Kenneth! Kenneth, come quickly!" she screamed. Kenneth ran in and saw his son struggling to breathe, his tiny hands clutching his chest. His heart pounded as he lifted Daniel in his arms. "Hold on, son! We're taking you to the hospital!" They ran as fast as they could to the nearby hospital, but Daniel's body was already weak. His breathing became shallower, his eyelids fluttering. As they reached the hospital doors, Kenneth felt Daniel's small body go limp in his arms. "Doctor, please help my son." Joy cried as they burst into the emergency room. The doctors rushed forward, but as soon as they checked Daniel's pulse, their expressions changed. The head doctor sighed and placed a hand on Kenneth's shoulder. "I'm so sorry, he's gone." Joy collapsed to the floor, screaming. No, my baby, please wake up." Nurses tried to console her, but she clung to Daniel's lifeless body, sobbing uncontrollably. Kenneth stood frozen, staring at his son's face, unable to process what had just happened. His world shattered into a million pieces. His mind was filled with guilt. "This is my fault," he whispered to himself. "If only I had listened. If only I had money for better treatment. If only." Days turned into weeks, and the pain of losing Daniel consumed them. Joy barely spoke. Kenneth became distant. Their home felt emptier than ever. But life did not stop. They still had a daughter to take care of. Kenneth knew he had to be strong for his family. One morning, after months of grieving, he made a decision. "I have to find work, Joy. We can't live like this forever," he told his wife. She nodded weakly, still broken from the loss, but she understood. Kenneth searched everywhere for a job, but found nothing. Finally, he was offered work as a bricklayer, earning just $10,000 per day. The job was back-breaking, mixing cement, lifting heavy blocks under the scorching sun, but it was all he had. Each day he came home exhausted, his hands blistered, his body aching, but at least he was able to put food on the table. Slowly, he began saving up little by little. Months later, with the small amount of money he had gathered, he decided to invest. He bought a few used phones and laptops and started selling them in the marketplace. It wasn't much at first, but he was determined. As time passed, his business grew. He reinvested his profits, buying and selling more items. What started as a small trade turned into something bigger. Kenneth had lost so much, but he refused to stay down. His journey was far from over. He would keep pushing forward, no matter what. So guys, if you enjoyed this story, kindly subscribe to this channel to get more of our latest stories.